Dave Chappelle. There's been a lot of outrage over Dave Chappelle's new Netflix comedy special, Sticks and Stones. Spoiler alert, I was not outraged by it, so I guess in an attempt to sabotage any chance I have of actually reaching 100K, because I know people gonna be pissed at me, and I know how the internet works, so there's gonna be a lot of people canceling me for not being outraged over a comedy show. So let's talk about this special whilst I beat this mug. Dissecting comedy is a great way to make it not fun anymore, so off we go. Disclosure: Chappelle is, to me anyway, the GOAT. He is my all-time favorite stand-up comic. Half Baked is one of my top 5, maybe even top 3 movies of all time. He was a huge influence on me, even wanting to pursue show business and comedy, and I don't think a week goes by where I don't quote one of his past specials or Chappelle Show. I guess he's my now problematic fave, which I suppose makes me problematic by proxy. But to be fair, I already told y'all that I am as problematic as the word problematic. And while I didn't think it was his best ever by any stretch, I did think there was a lot of strong, funny material in this special. Since we live in a world of haters and stans, I'm sure the only thing that people will take away from this is that because I mostly enjoyed Chappelle's Sticks and Stones, that I'm now in the alt-right. I can feel the pledges to unsub coming in already. Liking this special doesn't somehow automatically make me or anyone else who likes it a bigot. The people who are saying there's something wrong with you if you found this, or for that matter any other comedy special, funny, lines of reasoning like that are honestly what make me hate the internet. What you do in life determines your character, not the jokes that make you laugh. It's actually very possible to laugh at something that perhaps doesn't align with your values simply because the person presenting it is f***ing hilarious. To wit, Dave Chappelle. I would have preferred to go into this special blind, but I already knew there was an uproar around the special before I saw it. After all, there was an uproar the last time Dave Chappelle did a Netflix special. This is very much on brand. I think people forget how outrageous the things he was doing on Chappelle's show were, even way back then. Chappelle and Neil Brennan opened with a sketch about a black white supremacist. That was the pilot. What I'm saying is Chappelle has a long history of being a habitual line stepper. So while I knew there was a backlash in the most general sense, I did my best to avoid watching any videos or critiques or reviews or anything before I watched it so that I could go in as blind as possible. Almost as blind as Clayton Bigsby, I suppose. Unfortunately, I did know generally that there was this uproar, and I found myself kind of waiting for the moment. You know, waiting for that moment that had gotten everyone so upset. And then it happened. For the very first time ever, I found myself cringing at one of Dave's jokes. It was the Chinese impression, I guess, where he was comparing how it would feel being a Chinese man trapped in this nigga body, as he put it, to how it must feel to be gender. He did a whole act out where he was saying, but I feel Chinese, and pulling this face. Hardcore Mr. Yunioshi, Breakfast at Tiffany kind of vibes. And even though that character was Japanese, it is the same archaic trope. I was primarily just shocked at how lazy it was. As if the act out wasn't bad enough because it was bad. I didn't even think the joke's premise was strong enough or funny enough to be part of the set. I was just dead ass gawking at my TV through that whole bit. It appears I got it wrong, though. I picked the wrong answer, and from what I can gather, people seem to be the most upset about his use of the F word during a couple different portions of the show, as well as his continued phobia and phobia. Considering he even resorted to the "I have friends who are" defense in this special, and more than once, I don't think we need to actually debate Chappelle's obvious issues with and phobia. Marginalization is like a food chain, and no one wants to be at the bottom. This is why as soon as a marginalized group can find another group to put beneath them, they will. I say food chain, but it's really like a privilege chain, from the most privileged down to the least privileged. Black people, of course, don't have it so great in this setup to begin with. This is why issues like colorism, phobia, and even what I like to call texturism in the black community are, in my opinion, so severe. More corollaries, phobia within the gay community, racism within the gay community, also very big issues. Interestingly enough, Chappelle even spoke on these particular tensions within the set. I just had to change my camera battery and my mic battery, so let me see if I can remember where I was. I think I was just saying that shit rolls downhill. In other words, hurt people, all the way down the totem pole. Chappelle is in the unique position of having transcended race, well, as much as a black man can anyway, by being rich and famous for a long time now. So he's coming from a background and a community that already normalizes misogyny, misogynoir, shitting on the black alphabet people, as he put it. Plus, now that he's been a rich man for a long time, he also shits on poor people. I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying what I think is happening. The nature of stand-up is very different from every other facet of show business. And when we see comedians who become very, very, very rich and successful, there's often this shift where they kind of become too smug for their own good. I mean, have you ever watched an episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee? It's kind of astonishing just how out of touch with us plebeians Seinfeld and some of those guests that he has on the show are. Because Chappelle, Seinfeld, Ricky Gervais, all of these guys, they live lives of insane privilege, and it's easy for them to simply look the other way in the face of other people's adversity. Because what matters to them is the joke. The joke is the most important thing. It is the only thing to a comedian. Which brings us to Chappelle yelling the F word. The gay slur that used to mean a bundle of sticks. Gonna level with y'all, I was not surprised nor shocked at all at his repeated use of the word. I am only surprised that people are surprised. In the special, he talked about back when he was doing Chappelle's show, a comparison was made between the F word and As most of us know, they use the N-word a lot on Chappelle's show, and he still does now. But he was instructed by standards and practices at that time to remove the F-word from a sketch that he had written. F-word is a no, but you can say n***er all you want. So he asked S&P at Comedy Central why he could say the latter on TV, but not the former. And he was told that he couldn't say the F-word because he's not gay. To which he responded, well, I'm not a n***er either. Now, personally, I thought that that was great writing and delivery. It struck a chord with me and expressed something that I've also felt about use of the word n***er and other derogatory terms within black culture. Because I'm not a n***er, and I'm also not a nappy-headed hoe. Y'all are probably like, but your channel name? Intent matters. People throw around words like n***er and bitch and hoe all the time. And who is saying it and how it is said can be a term of endearment or a reason to tool the fuck up. My channel name is Nappy-Headed Jojoba, but I don't literally think of myself as a nappy-headed I am many things, and that is not among them. However, I think there's so much power in subversion. Over the years, I've had a handful of real Rhodes scholars bitch me out for celebrating a racist with my channel name. When Don Imus famously called the Rutgers women's basketball team nappy-headed at the time, honestly, I thought it was remarkable. It made me laugh, but I was laughing at him, not with him. The fact that this irrelevant has-been shock jock would even have such vernacular. When I first heard it, I remember thinking, are they sure that this old white man came up with nappy-headed or are they confusing him with Method Man? Whenever these gaffes happen, consider the source. Not then, not now, and not ever will I get up in arms over some decrepit man's comments on his insignificant radio show. The gag is, the women on that basketball team, me, none of us are nappy-headed It's preposterous to even think that you could reduce any of us to such a description. And that's why I truly thought it was laughable. I didn't find it offensive, I found it to be ludicrous. Lashes, be back in a sec. The very idea that I'm just some nappy-headed hoe and have no value is so absurd to me that I'm actually tickled by it. And because I live for a groan-inducing pun, throw in the portmanteau with jojoba, and here we are. I see it the same way as if I had named my channel Dumb Bitch Does Makeup. Clearly, I'm not just some dumb bitch doing makeup. I also do fitness reviews. The point is me reclaiming my time, reclaiming the term nappy-headed after that incident, it doesn't mean that I think it's okay for some man to call a black woman a nappy-headed. I don't think I'd get really upset because, again, it's such a silly, lame insult and I'm not offended easily. I just think that Chappelle was playing with subversion by repeating the F word, and maybe he convinced himself that he was helping to take the power out of the word. The issue there is, of course, that's not his place. Frankly, it speaks to his own arrogance if that's what he thought he was doing. Furthermore, I think Chappelle's story about his conversation about the F word and the N word serves better to prove the S&P woman's point rather than his own. He's not a though he uses the word all the time. I'm not a or a bitch, but I playfully refer to myself as both frequently. It's subversive to call myself a because I'm not a and you don't get to call me a either. The problem is, there are people out there who disagree, who see Chappelle as a who see me as a or a bitch for that matter. And I'm sure, depending on the source, there would be instances where someone calling Chappelle a would not be okay with him, regardless of how many times he uses the word himself. If anyone should get to decide who does and does not get to use a hurtful, dehumanizing slur, it is the group against whom it was originally directed. If that group, or just some members within it, decide to start using that word to take back its power, so be it. But if I am not a part of that group, it is not my place to decide that for them. Some of my black friends say a lot. Some don't believe in ever saying it. Some of my gay friends say the F word. Some absolutely hate it. I am a straight cis woman. I am literally on the opposite end of the spectrum of who that word is used against to dehumanize. But because I understand how it feels to be called a slur like that through experience, it's an easy choice for me to not use it. It's not hard. Like, I'm not conflicted about this at all. Similar to when white people want to insist that they should get to say the N-word because black people do it, because rappers do it. Why is it that important to you? Why are you fighting so hard for this? Again, it just reeks of privilege, of thinking that you should get to have everything you want because you're rich and famous and smart. Because say what you want about his politics, I think Chappelle is wildly intelligent and clever, and I think that's why he's such a great comedian. But it's not my place to forgive or not forgive him for using the word and seemingly taking such pleasure in saying it at that. Just like it isn't up to white people or otherwise non-black people to forgive racists for saying or being racist in some other way. Chappelle throwing around the F word, I am not the offended party. I don't really get to chime in on whether he's forgiven or not. I'll stick to chiming in on whether or not I'm offended by or forgive him for his misogynistic comments, and P.S. I'm not. My self-worth doesn't come from a comedian's act. As far as the Michael Jackson portion, which seems to be the other sticking point for the outraged, I regret to inform y'all that I was laughing my ass off. I thought the jokes, while incredibly dark, were strong. As far as his insistence that he doesn't believe the victims, that's pure insanity. To me. I don't usually relate to the outrage du jour anyway. I guess this is just the way my mind works and just being a comedy nerd, but I'm offended by unfunny, uninspired, poorly written, lame jokes regardless of content. But I'm not offended by insensitive or even bigoted commentary as long as it's within a funny, well-crafted joke. Indeed, I tend to gravitate more toward jokes that really are challenging, that are almost hard to hear. Even while I found most of the special to be super funny, I'm still able to not let that cloud the way I think we should actually think about some of these issues. Like, I'm not out here denying the claims of the Michael Jackson victims, but I still find it incredibly, darkly funny to hear Dave Chappelle imitating a kid in school the next day with a whole, sky's the limit. That whole run, I was cracking up. That is my favorite type of comedy more often than not. When you're laughing, but you also feel guilty for laughing. That pocket is so hard to pull off, but for me and my up sense of humor, he pulled it off. Some of the people defending Chappelle are saying that comedy is meant to offend, it's supposed to get you upset. No, comedy is meant to be funny, period, end of sentence. Good comedy, in my opinion, is funny and provokes thought, or perhaps even articulates thoughts and observations that you already have in a way you never could have done yourself. And sometimes those thoughts or ideas are taboo. So in terms of my thesis that good comedy is both funny and thought-provoking, I do think Chappelle achieved that in this special, for the most part. Because comedy isn't about aligning with social justice agendas. So if a person or group is disrespected within the context of a joke, that's collateral damage. The primary pursuit is just what is funny. And often, what is funny about this tragic, terrible situation? Is the joke funny? That is fundamentally the only question that matters, at least from the comedian's perspective. So while it's not really accurate to me anyway to say comedy is meant to offend or jokes are supposed to push boundaries, these things do often happen with great comedy because it's often exploring our most sacred values. I think that's what Chappelle and the other greats have always done, but you're within your rights to not find him funny and or to disagree with whatever stance he's taking on topics. If that is your position, though, why create even more awareness of something that you don't support by going on social media rants? It never ceases to amaze me how, time and time again, when people want to cancel someone, they essentially start doing all of that person or entity's marketing for free. I get requests to do videos about Trisha Paytas doing this or that, or even the Kardashians all the time. And my response is always, remember, no. Because while I think that cancel culture is a farce, I've been canceling people and brands since before that was a term. And when I cancel someone, I mean it. That means not devoting any of my energy to them, and just as importantly, not encouraging others to devote energy to them either. It's like when people dislike a video or leave a troll comment. If you really want to hurt a YouTuber or whoever, the worst thing you can do is nothing. Don't watch, don't engage, and don't give them your platform by using it to tell everyone about the f***ed up thing they did that you don't like. All in all, while I do disagree with some of Chappelle's points as well as how he chose to present them, I liked the special. I laughed a lot, and I feel like he had some really insightful commentary on quite a few different topics. It's a comedy special, you know? I think people devote entirely too much energy to getting angry about the wrong things these days. Comedy doesn't exist to be politically correct or to make you feel good about yourself. Comedy isn't worried about offending you. Comedy is worried about being funny. That's it. Humor is such a personal thing. So what one person finds funny, another person may not. It's always been that way, and it will always be that way. But the judgments being placed on people for liking the special or not liking it, I just can't with that. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just differences of opinion. Anyway, I'm ready, so let's transition to the awkward slow-mo shots for this edition of Nobody Asked You Ho. Alright, there you have it, friends. We have reached the end of today's Get Ranty With Me / Nobody Asked You Ho. Again, I guess at the end of the day, I am able to kind of compartmentalize things. I'm able to laugh at something and objectively just think that it's funny, even if it is really dark and twisted and not nice, but still disagree with a person's attitudes, be they phobic, misogynistic, whatever. I don't know, I can still recognize a well-crafted joke even if I don't necessarily agree with the viewpoint contained therein. Whatever. I've talked enough. You guys let me know your thoughts on Sticks and Stones if you've watched it, which I imagine you would have if you are this deep into this video. Thank you for hanging out with me whilst I did my makeup and hearing me out on my opinions, even if they differ from yours. Beyond that, I got nothing else for you except for a gentle reminder, and that is, never trust anyone with a Morphe code. Bye-bye.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now.